Alright, so I got a question for you. What's your favorite fighting game stage? And why is it your favorite fighting game stage? This might be a mind boggler for a couple of people because I'm sure in some fighting games, the stage really doesn't matter. But in other fighting games, the stage can completely make or break the match for some people. This can be due to maybe some kind of interactable or some kind of hazard, but let's not talk about that yet. Let's simply talk about how a stage makes you feel. First, I want to talk about some training stages in fighting games. More so the Street Fighter training stages. The Street Fighter training rooms always make me feel calm, and I feel as though that's by design because usually when you're in a training stage, you're doing just that, you're training. But there's also something else in the back of my mind when I'm in a training stage. What does it feel like in here? Like, what's the temperature? Is it room temperature? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it gusty? Is it just still air? What does it smell like? In reality, these rooms just kind of exist in a void where you just kind of pop up into them, but at the same time, for the people who are in those rooms, in that world, what does it feel like in there? There's always this weird curiosity that overtakes me whenever I'm playing these games because I start to relate it to my five senses. That in turn makes me think to myself, man, would I even be able to handle this fight if I were in my character's shoes? Depending on where the fight takes place, would I be too hot or too cold? Does the air feel good? Does the air even smell good? What does the area really look like? What does a ground feel like? All these questions come running to the front of my mind whenever I'm playing a game, and that's probably why I end up losing a lot of the time because I'm not focused, but sometimes I just want to enjoy the scenery. And really, this isn't even just relegated to fighting games because this can be for any level in any game that you've ever played. For example, in Elden Ring, you have Caelid, and just by looking around here, you can get a pretty good feeling of what this area smells like, but at the same time, with the name of Scarlet Rot, it makes me kind of think, well, maybe the rotting smell has a little bit of undertone of flowers, but that's still kind of nasty, you know? Or in the Fallout games, you're walking around the wasteland, but what does a wasteland feel like? Fallouts 1, 2, and New Vegas all take place out west, and because of that, I know for a fact that it's gotta be really hot and it's gotta be really dry. So much so to the point where the soldiers of the NCR are talking about the whole nuclear winter thing.
Patrolling the Mojave almost makes you wish for a nuclear winter.
But with the implication of a nuclear winter, does that mean that they're forever trapped in a nuclear summer out west? I couldn't imagine what a nuclear summer feels like. I'm from the Midwest. We get rain over here. And taking all of that into consideration, what do you think these stages in fighting games feel like? I want to take some time and talk about a few of my favorite fighting game stages and go over why they're my favorite fighting game stages. As I'm going over these, I want you to keep in mind the five senses. How would they react to this general area, and how does all that make you feel on the inside? Even if you don't have the same views or opinion on a stage that I do, that's fine. Like I said in an earlier video, everyone's gears turn differently, but these are just some of the stages that I really vibe with. So starting off in no particular order, we have the Land of the Kais from Dragon Ball FighterZ. This stage to me is always felt pretty mystical for the fact that the sky is purple, the water is purple, and it looks like Earth but in like a dreamlike state. Even the name itself, Land of the Kais, something about that name just makes it feel so ethereal when compared to all the other stages because this is the Land of the Kais, and I guess in Dragon Ball terms a Kai is a god, from what I remember at least, and that to me is essentially just saying this is the land of the gods. Only the truest of the truest warriors can fight here, and that to me just really hits home. This isn't just some wasteland or some tournament arena, this is the land of the Kais. You have the gods of the universe watching you throw hands, so you obviously can't disappoint. Even the music itself feels like it's elevating you to do a lot better than you normally would, because really just listen to this for a second. There is no way you can tell me that this music doesn't fit this stage perfectly. There's no passerbys and you don't have to worry about the destruction of the planet. It's simply just you, your opponent, and this crazy orchestral band you got going in the background, so you can feel free to cut loose. In my opinion, I feel like stages like these are usually thrown to the wayside because there's not a whole lot going on in the background. And to me, that's a good thing because there's not going to be a whole bunch distracting you from what's going on in the foreground. Up next, we have another favorite of mine, Genbu Temple. I think the thing that I like the most about Genbu Temple is simply just the environment. From what I understand, this stage is kinda deep in the mountains, and because of that, I have to imagine it's pretty secluded. And that makes me think that nature has to be pretty abundant here because you got the trees in the background, you got the fish hopping out of the water. Everything just seems very calm and peaceful. Something else I find very interesting about this stage, and this is purely just a me thing, but if you or your opponent are patient enough at the end of a round, you can see the wind blow and you can see some of the cherry blossom leaves fall onto the ground. I don't know why that really resonates with me how it does, but it's just really cool to see. Anytime I play on this stage, I try my best to not just skip to the next round because I always like to see the leaves fall around everybody. Honestly, it's no wonder Ryu's always here meditating. If I could, I'd probably join him. Even the music on this stage is just peaceful. But then once the round starts to ramp up and gets near the end, the music also starts to ramp up, and I think it's honestly one of the best stages in Street Fighter 6 paired with the music. It's stages like these that make me think to myself, man, if I were really in my character's shoes, would I even want to fight in a place like this? It's so peaceful. Why would I want to throw hands with someone here? Why not just be like Ryu and just start meditating? Despite there being an active training room in Street Fighter 6, I will always use Genbu Temple as my training stage for the fact that it just brings me an immense amount of peace and focus. Plus, like I said earlier, when it comes down to the training room stages, I don't really know how people get in or out of those, and I have to assume that on the side that we don't see, there's gotta be like a door or something, but even if there isn't, do they just teleport out? Maybe I'm just overthinking it, but I prefer to have my characters be able to leave freely whenever they'd like to. So these last two stages I'm going to talk about are from one of my favorite fighting games, Tekken 4. Something you should know about Tekken 4 is that the gameplay itself isn't anything really to write home about, but it's the atmosphere and the overall feeling of the game that just really hooked people, myself included. The first stage I want to talk about from this game is the laboratory. This stage is such an anomaly to me because it's so scary and ominous, but there's nothing really going on. Like, when you look around this stage, there's really nothing happening, except there's all this like steam or smoke or whatever it is billowing in from the walls and stuff, but at the same time, that's just it. It's just a room filled with a bunch of vapor. Even the song that plays on this stage just perfectly encapsulates how it makes me feel. Fear. That's the name of the song, Fear. And when you stop and listen to it, it really does sound like a song personification of the feeling of fear, or just an impending doom almost. You know how when you get knocked out in the game, it always says like KO or something like that? There are some stages in fighting games where it feels like KO just simply doesn't apply because, look around, if someone gets knocked out, who's gonna revive that person? No. You are killing someone. You are ending their life. You are ending their entire existence here, right now. This stage is one of those stages. Sometimes when people talk about labbing out combos, in the back of my head, I think of this stage because it's called the laboratory, but I would never go here to practice. Absolutely not. This place is where people go to have their final fight of the night. This is where people go to die. With all that being said, I very much enjoyed this stage. While it does invoke that strange sense of impending doom, sadness, and fear, I think those are all extremely well motivating tools to help you do a little bit better in the game because, as I said before, when you get knocked out in these kind of stages, you're not getting knocked out, you're dying. And I don't want my mains to die. They're my mains. I gotta make sure they're doing good. Finally, we have my favorite stage of all time in fighting games. The rooftops. Ever since I was a kid and I first started playing Tekken, this map has always stayed in the back of my head as one of the best maps of all time. I don't even really know where to begin when it comes down to why I like this stage because I truly like everything about it. I feel like when people talk about the atmosphere of Tekken 4, this stage is easily one of the first things they always talk about, and it's definitely for good reason. Just listen to the music and then look at the visuals of the stage. Like, you're on top of a roof and you have these helicopters around you, you have the big bright city lights in the background, but then at the same time, unbeknownst to all those people in those buildings, there's this crazy fight going on top of this one rooftop, and something about that is just so, I don't know, I can't really put words to it, but it's just so cool to me. When I'm just doing stuff around the house, or if I'm walking around outside or doing a little workout, this song 90% of the time comes on, and it just makes me stop and think like, man. And midway through the song, this drum beat starts to come in, and man, let me just say, this has got to be one of the best songs ever produced in Tekken history, hands down. It's like Harada himself went to the angels of music and were like, hey guys, listen, so I'm making a stage, I need some really good music, and they're like, say less Harada, we got you. In my opinion, I feel like this is like the Swiss Army knife of stages. It feels almost dreamlike because of the music and the fact that you're on top of the building, and you don't usually go on top of the building to fight somebody. Another feeling that comes up due to the music is that feeling of peacefulness that you might find on the training stage or something similar to Genbu Temple. But then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have that feeling of fear and despair come in when you think about it in the sense of, well, we're on top of the building. This seems like this would be some final set piece for a movie fight, and usually in those movie fights, someone has to die. I'm sure at this point you guys can understand that the rooftop stage of Tekken 4 is easily one of the best stages to me, and it makes me feel a lot of different emotions. It's very difficult to parse through something that makes me feel a wide range of emotions and feelings, but surely you have to understand that I love this stage. I love everything about this stage. The music, the visuals, the atmosphere, every little thing about this stage, mwah, truly top notch. Truthfully, I really do hope they bring this stage back for Tekken 8. I know for a fact I could go on and on and on and on and on about all my favorite stages in fighting games, but these are just some of the ones that really stand out to me because I just really love them. So, as I said before, when it comes down to liking a fighting game, there's a lot of different elements that a lot of people might take into consideration. And one of those elements for me is obviously the stage. For me, the stage counts as something that I would consider some of the finer details in a fighting game. Some of these developers do not have to go as hard as they do with making some of these stages, and some of these musicians don't have to go as hard as they do making some of these stage themes. But it truly warms my soul when they do decide to go that extra mile and make some of the best stages you've ever seen with some of the best music you've ever heard. I'm not a huge Mortal Kombat fan, not that I think the games are bad, but I simply just can't wrap my head around the combo system to save my life. But those games have some of the best sets of stages, and I think they fit every single one of those categories that I was talking about earlier in terms of atmosphere and mood and just the feeling that I would get if I were there. They just come together and make some of the craziest experiences that I really feel bad not liking Mortal Kombat, because look at some of these stages. Ed Boon was really cooking right here. Whatever games you enjoy, be they fighting games or any other kind of game, always try to make sure you enjoy those finer details. The things that you might consider finer details might not exactly line up with what someone else thinks are finer details, but to me, I think that's a beautiful part of it, because everyone can find some kind of appreciation for any fine detail in any game, honestly, or any piece of media for that matter. If you made it to the end of the video, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Truly I do, because I know it's probably not easy listening to someone ramble on and on about the small details in fighting games, but truly it means the world to me that you guys decided to watch all the way through. And if you guys have some favorite fighting game stages, or just stages in games in general that you like to glean small details from, do let me know. And for the 2 or maybe 3 people who are out there who do care about the stuff that I post, let me know what you guys want to see later on in the future. I personally already have some ideas, but I just want to know what you guys think. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a nice day.